For this video, I want to go over some beginner tips that are not playing related, but are just kind of guitar stuff sort of tips that I found useful as a beginner. And there's nothing earth-shattering here, but maybe it's things you've not considered, and hopefully it can help you out a little bit. Tip number one is, what do you do with your pick, particularly whenever you're standing up playing and you need to set it down somewhere and you don't want to put it in your pocket and let it just get lost in the billion other things that everyone keeps in their pocket. What I always do is, if I'm playing electric, you can slide it into the pick guard right there. So find the gap between the body of the guitar and the pick guard. You can slide the pick directly in there and it'll hold it for you. Let's assume that you're playing a guitar like an acoustic or a Les Paul or something that doesn't have this style pick guard on it. What can you do with your pick then? What I do, and this is maybe a bit unsanitary or gross, and maybe germaphobes aren't going to like this idea, but you can take the pick and you can lick it, and then you can stick it on the guitar, and it's going to stay right there. Tip number two, what do you do whenever you're playing guitar and all of a sudden the pick that was in your fingers is no longer in your fingers and it winds up in the sound hole? Beginners do this all the time. I'm no different. Heck, it still happens to me today. The pick goes in the sound hole. What a lot of people do is they'll take their guitar and turn it upside down and just start furiously shaking, hoping that it comes out. And the reason that this is not really as effective as one might think it should be is that all inside surrounding the sound hole, you've got braces that are on the top of the guitar, and more often than not, whenever you just immediately turn it upside down, that pick has wound up somewhere in the bottom belly of the guitar, and you're shaking, and the pick is just going to get hung up on the braces that are on the top end of the guitar, or on the top of the guitar. So what I do is instead, I hold my guitar this way with the top facing upwards, and I'll shake until I see the pick get into the very middle, and sometimes I kind of have to jiggle and kind of hop the pick into the middle of the guitar over the back braces, but I get it so that it is right in the very middle of the sound hole on the back. And you can see where that's at right here in this picture. And then once I get it there, like right on that middle rib of the guitar, I take it and I quickly just flip it upside down and the pick comes out. Tip number three, let's assume for a second that you have just restrung your guitar, they're fresh strings, and you don't want to waste a fresh set of strings, but for some reason you need to access something inside the sound hole on the other side of these strings, like maybe you have to change the battery of your acoustic electric guitar or something like that. What I used to think that you would have to do is that it was just a wasted set of strings, and I would go to unwinding the strings until they completely came off the peg heads, and then I would undo them from this way. It took me far too long to realize that that is the wrong approach to take. If you want to get to something inside the sound hole, just loosen up your strings until there's no tension left on them. Get them nice and loose, but don't let them unwrap from around the peg up here. Keep them on the peg, and then from down here with this peg, just pull it out, and you can take this string and pop it out of this hole. And I'm speaking with this peg in my mouth, so I probably sounded weird, but you can pop the string out of the hole in the bridge and lay it to the side, and you can do that for as many strings as you need to until there is space for you to reach your hand down in there and access your battery or whatever the case may be. Then once you've done that, you just put the string back into place into the hole in the bridge. Take your peg, press it back down in there. Make sure that your string here is sat in the nut correctly, in that slot on the nut. Tighten it back up. And then go back to playing. No wasted strings.